No, I am not a brony. Get me out of Equestria. By BronyWriter. Prologue. In one of the highest towers of Canterlot Castle there was a room where few ever trod. It was a private chamber, filled with trinkets and baubles whose purpose escaped the understanding of many. It was a place where no mere mortal would enter of their own volition, at least without supervision. A small but bright light flickered on, illuminating the room as a tall, white alicorn stepped inside. As she closed the door behind her with her rear hoof, she twisted her neck to relax the hints of kinks in it and fired up her impressive horn, bathing the walls in a gentle white light. A satisfied smile graced her complexion as the ornate regalia floated off her body. This wasn't the place for that. Here she could be alone. A large notebook sat on a nearby desk. Upon seeing it, Princess Celestia picked it up and turned it to a middle page. The pages were inscribed with a series of symbols and runes, each signifying a numeric value or mathematical sequence that, when coupled with the extensive scrawls, detailed specific properties of magical fields and flow dynamics. To the normal pony, and even the most intelligent ones, it would all look like a mess of letter and number-shaped babbling. It seemed as understandable as a splotch of spilled ink. Princess Celestia was no normal pony. She had powers beyond the understanding of her subjects. As such, she felt that it was her duty to try and expand the knowledge on magic, all in hope that she could better the lives of her subjects and friends. And right at this moment, she was close to a breakthrough. A second spell was cast by the alicorn, and the room around her faded away, rushing by in an oblong blur of color. The dark blue expanse around her would be normal to the untrained eye. It looked just like the equestrian night sky, after all, but to some pony like her, this was a whole new plane of perspective. As she wandered further into what she had dubbed the limbo, she began to sense the anomalies, tears in the dimensional fabrics that made up her surroundings. This was far from an unusual feeling, as she has been here many times, and was familiar with them. In fact, it was for one of those she had come here for. Each one was notably different. The individual tears radiated their own magical aura. Beyond each of the individual rips was a different universe. Each one was unexplored and unique to the equestrian viewpoint. Celestia had discovered the limbo quite by accident, but ever since she had, she felt that it would be a waste not to explore and study the phenomenon, and reap the intellectual rewards it could offer. If traveling to another realm proved beneficial, it would behoove her to attempt some exploration. As she continued on her way, she began to sense the precise locations of a number of individual tears. She could not see what was beyond them without actually looking herself, but knowing the locations would help her find out. She let her magic flow through her, powering her presence's movement until it homed in by itself on the closest one. It would be just as good as any. She stopped just in front of the event and reached out with her magic, attempting to penetrate a small dirty smudge that was almost invisible when viewed against the crispness of the dark and starry landscape. Slowly, the smudge became bigger and more noticeable until a pinprick of light appeared in front of her. She grinned to herself. She was getting better at this. With the expenditure of more energy, the point became steadily larger. When it was twice the size of Celestia herself, she stopped. By then, the image was not merely light any longer. It was a full-blown picture, one of an entirely new world. To describe what lay in front of her eyes would take more brain power and a larger vernacular than she likely possessed at the moment. However, this did not faze her, as she could always write down what she saw when she powered down to go back to Equestria. She tentatively reached out a hoof to touch the barrier between worlds, but as soon as it made physical contact, her head was racked with a jolt of pain. The image wobbled alarmingly even after the headache dulled. A ripple ran through the picture, threatening to erase the portal from existence. With a grunt, Celestia weaved her powers into a stabilizing frame around the edges of the portal. It stopped vibrating. For now, it seemed that the immortal Princess of the Sun would have to demote herself to a mere spectator. And that was Prologue. No, I am not a brony. Get me out of Equestria. By BronyWriter. Performed by Bensneb.